YouTube, what's up? Back again for another daily fishing video here on Andrew Upshaw Fishing. Took yesterday off. Not gonna lie, I had a really long trip trying to get everything unpacked when we got here to Texas. And let's just face it, I just needed a day off. We all need that day every once in a while. But today's video is going to feature a few of my favorite little tricks and tips for fishing a drop shot, namely this time of year. But more importantly, just a few things that people kind of overlook. This isn't your typical, hey, this is the type of worm you fish on it, and this is how you cast and reel it in. Like, it ain't that type of video. So if this is what you're expecting, you should probably turn it off right now. Because these are a few things that definitely will help you the next time you're on the water, and it will make a lot of sense as I go through the video. But hey, real fast though, if you have not subscribed to this YouTube channel, you should do so now. It's really, really simple. All you do is hit that subscribe button. You don't have to sign up, don't have to do anything crazy. You don't have to pay any money. And you get notified every time I release a new video. But more importantly, you know, I've been asking for a lot of comments and all this stuff. And comments are great. But if you really want to help me out, if you really want to help my channel out and help it grow, just like the video. Or dislike the video. It doesn't matter. Either way, I would prefer you like it. But, you know, I mean, I guess you can be that person that dislikes it. I've disliked a few videos, I'm not going to lie. But it's typically because I really didn't like the video. But I hope y'all do enjoy this video. I hope you learn something from it, because there's going to be some action-packed tips in here that definitely will help you catch more bass. I hope you enjoy this video, and you'll see it here in just a second. So when I'm thinking about a drop shot, the first thing I'm going to talk to you about is line, and choosing the right line for the current situation that you're dealing with. And a lot of times it has to do with the pound test that I'm dealing with, determining what size line or what type of line that I'm fishing. So if I'm in an ultra finesse situation, and when I say ultra finesse, it might be even more finesse than you've ever fished. I'm talking 4 or 5 pound test line. When I get in those situations, I use straight fluorocarbon. That is a huge deal. I do it one way. I've learned over the years that if I do it this particular way, my hookup ratio is better. I'll reduce that line twist. And when you're talking about 4 pound line twist can actually break your line, because it damages it just enough that, I mean, it's such a light line and you can break it. But I use that little VMC. It's got a little swivel built into it. I use a size 1 and sometimes a size 2 depending on the situation. But 4 pound test, you really got to downsize that gear, guys. You got to go to lighter action rods, medium light, even light action. But I'm telling you, I never break them off. I mean, my hookup ratio is fantastic. You just got to take your time on those. So if I'm fishing, like I said, I'm fishing 4 to 5 pound test, I am going to straight fluorocarbon with that little swivel shot hook. I don't know what the name of it is, guys. I'll drop it in the description below so you can find it. But that is a big deal on this particular setup. I never use a Texas rigged with like a traditional hook like this. On 4 to 5 pound line, you cannot get the hook set well. You got to nose hook that bait. So that's one little tidbit of information. So whenever I'm fishing any line bigger than 5 pounds, so like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 20, whatever it may be, I'm actually fishing braid to fluorocarbon. So this is one thing that I do differently than I feel like most people do. I do the old school method. You talk about a lot of people that are tie leaders, and I have a lot of questions about how long a leader do I tie? Do I tie 10, 12, 14 foot leader? I don't do any of that. So basically what I do is I take my fluorocarbon, I get my Texas rig hook or my nose hook. I mean, you got a couple different options. You can do like one of these type of hooks, or you can do like a hook like this. But for the sake of this video, I'll just do a Texas rig hook. I'll take my leader and I'll cut it to about 2 foot. And I'll go down about 8 inches, and I'll tie a simple polymer knot facing into the hook first. So you always want to go hook point forward, and just roll that in there. And there's a few little tricks here, so you got to really pay attention. So I always go back over the point of the hook. You wet that, you pull the lines together, but then you take your long leader and you pull it first, because you see how it kinked right there? It'll damage your line up top if you pull that top line first. And when you're fishing light line, if you pull that leader first, if you break off, it'll break your weight off and not break off your hooks. That's a big deal. So you see how that hook is not sitting straight. Well, this is one of those tricks that I learned years ago. I don't even remember who I learned it from. Maybe Roland Martin or somebody. watching one of their shows. But you get that, and you get your long leader, okay? And you get this hook just perfectly straight like this, and you go through the top of the hook. You make sure you don't loop it in there, but you go through the top of the hook here, just like so. You grab that little short leader, and you pull it down. And you see how my hook went perfect there? That causes that hook to sit perfectly. Then I get a tungsten weight. I use lead forever, and lead's great. But what the advantages of tungsten is whenever you're fishing harder bottom, you can feel it better with that tungsten weight. Now, granted, if you break them off, it kind of sucks. But I tie an actual like knot. So I tie my little quick knot on here, and so I do that right there. So that's my typical drop shot. But as you can see, there's only about 8 to 10 inches right here. Okay, kind of freaky, huh? Then I dig in my tackle box, and for the sake of video, I'm going to use a really big swivel. But you get a swivel, you tie it to your braid, and you got to do this step next. So you tie your leader and all that stuff, then you tie your swivel to your braid, and let's see, let me make sure it is tied. You tie a simple polymer knot with that. I'm using 10-pound braid here. So here we go. We got that tied. We'll clip that off later, but you clip that little tag in. You take this. I just tie my little simple quick knot on here onto the swivel. And this is going to blow your mind, guys. I'm telling you. So this is how much leader I use from the top of my hook to my swivel. Okay? I want you to look at this now. There's only about 6 to 8 inches right there. I have been on the clearest bodies of water that you've ever seen in your life. I've been on Lake Mead. I've been on St. Clair on a calm day. And if you've ever been there, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I've been on Lake Murray in the middle of the summer when the water was gin clear. I mean, I've been on a ton of places that the water's clear, and I've used this drop shot every single time, just like this. With a swivel, with yellow braid. And I've caught just as many fish, if not more fish, than everybody around me. Lake Cherokee, when I was flipping a drop shot around, that's how I found all those fish. I was flipping a drop shot. I was doing the exact same thing. You know, you're going to hear guys tell you use braid to fluorocarbon, tie your leader, and then put you 10 or 15 feet on there, and that's great. But it doesn't work for me. I get line twist. That is the worst line twist I've ever seen in my life because of that. And then you got to let line out, and you got to cut it. It's just a disaster, especially if you catch a lot of fish on it. You're having to retie a lot. I don't like to retie. If I do it like this, I can catch 5, 6, 7 fish on a drop shot before it actually starts tangling up because that swivel is going to keep the line perfect. I'll actually keep braid on my spinning reel for a really, really long time. So that's a big trick, guys. And I mean, it's old school. That's the way I learned how to do it, and I've still done it to this day. I've almost won tournaments with a drop shot using this exact same method. So, I mean, you do what you want to do. Like I said, I'm for the sake of the video, I used a really oversized swivel. I use a tiny swivel in this case. And it's just more so because every once in a while you accidentally reel it through the guide, and you need something that's really small. But, I mean, that's what I do right there. That's as long a leader as I fish on there. So now that's trick number 1. So, I mean, I know there's a long trick. Trick number 2 is trying to figure out the exact length of leader between your hook and your weight. So I get a lot of questions about how do you determine the length on that leader. So I'll give it a real simple answer. I think I did this in a video not too long ago. But what you do is if the water's really dirty, you want that leader way shorter between the weight and the hook. You might only make it 4 or 5 inches, maybe 3 inches. And because the fish are more related to the bottom. The dirtier the water, the more related to the bottom they are. The clearer the water, the more they'll rise up. The other instance where I use a really long leader is if I'm casting a drop shot. If I'm fishing it vertical, it really makes a huge difference on how long that leader is or how short it is depending on water clarity. But if I'm casting a drop shot, think of it like this. If I make that cast with that drop shot and I make it maybe 30 feet, this is maybe the angle of which I'm retrieving the bait. So literally it's only about 8 to 10 inches off the bottom at that point based off the triangle, you know, because it makes a triangle under the water. So that's a really big trick whenever I'm trying to determine what leader length that I like to use. The other thing is is when I'm trying to determine what type of hook I'm going to use. So if I'm in the middle of summer, more times than not, I'm going to be fishing a Texas rig hook like I have here. That is a really big deal because you're having to fish in and around cover. The colder the water is, though, that's when I'm going to go to a more nose hook type situation, because what that's going to do gives the bait way more action, and therefore I catch way more bass. And that's a really big deal when you're out there fishing. A drop shot is the more action you want in the wintertime, the more natural action. So when that worm's sitting up here and it's nose hooked, so it's barely pin hooked on that hook, that worm's naturally just floating back here. Well, in the summertime, I actually like it Texas rig, like I have here. So, but now the last trick, this has to do with this time of year, and this, if you made it this far, you deserve to know this trick. You know, one thing that I see a lot of guys make a mistake of, especially in the summer, is how they work their drop shot in this time of year. So instead of, you know, you've seen guys just shake their drop shot, and they want that worm to shake, so they're shaking the rod tip, shaking the rod tip. That is the absolute worst way you can fish a drop shot in the summertime, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, there's might be some guys that have some pretty good success, and I want to preface this. This is more so what I'm referring to. This is largemouth, so not smallmouth. Smallmouth's a different animal altogether. But when I'm fishing largemouth, the technique I want to do is a real subtle line lift. So I'll tighten my line. So my line's tight on the bottom. I know it's tight because when I throw some slack in it, there's a little bit of slack thrown in my braid. But whenever I lift it up, I can feel that weight lifting and dropping off the bottom. What I like to do is I want to like dance the weight. I just want to dance the weight. I don't want to shake it fast, just like a slow, gradual lift with my rod. And I just want the worm to go up and down like this, not shake, up and down. That will get you a million more bites than shaking the bait. I don't know why. It's just how I've always done it, and it absolutely works. You can also, if you're around cover, you can upsize that line a bit, like 10-pound test. Most of the time, especially these dirtier reservoirs, and I say dirty, I say it's probably more stained reservoirs, you don't have to shake it hard, and you don't have to use really light line. Most of the time, guys, these fish are going to fire right off the bat. And another little tidbit, like I said, if you made it this far, you deserve to know. Drop shot is almost my #1 bait for firing up a school. You know, if you get one of those big schools of bass and you've been pulling up to it, trying to crank, big worm, all that stuff, and it ain't working, throw your drop shot first. Catch the first fish out of the school. See what happens. And you're going to catch one probably on your first cast. If there's a school there, you'll catch them on the first cast. It doesn't matter what size the fish is. It could be a 10-incher. It could be a 5-pounder. Doesn't matter. Catch that first fish. Put your drop shot down and pick up something else, and you're going to start catching them every single cast. When it dies, pick up your drop shot again, make a cast, catch one, and then start firing your big baits, and you'll be surprised how many extra fish you catch. Guys, I hope y'all enjoyed this video. Hope you learned a little bit about drop shotting, a little more advanced tips on drop shotting that will help you the next time you're on the water. I hope you enjoy this video, and I'll see you on the next one.